And we're back to learning to code by going through the freecodecamp curriculum. We're still in the responsive web design section, but we're getting towards the end. Now we're going to build a Ferris wheel and it's going to introduce us to animation. I think this is the part where CSS becomes interesting, at least for me. So this is what we're going to build. Let's create the basic boilerplate first. So you know that from the previous course already. We need dog type HTML, head and body. We need to link it. We need a meta tag and a title which is given. As an href for the link, we'll link it to the starts.css. In step 2, we're going to add a div container inside of the body. This is the basic div, so this circle. So we're going to give it a class wheel, and inside of it, we're going to nest. Let me check it. We need 6 span elements first, and afterwards 6 div elements. The span elements are the lines that we need. So we're going to have 6 of them. And the div containers, they're going to be the cabins. Once again, we'll have 6. In step 3, we are already in the CSS. Now we're going to start our basic container, which was the circle or the wheel. So we use the .wheel, the wheel class, as a selector, give it a border. With a border radius of 50%, it's going to be a circle, but only one of the next steps. And we're going to add a margin left. In step 4, we're actually creating the circle by giving it the same height and width, and we'll position it to absolute. So this is what we've got now here. And we'll set a max height and max width. So for now it has this VW unit for height and width, which is for the viewport. So it's a relative value. You can see that if I size it down, the circle is going to get sized down accordingly. But at a certain position, right now at max height and width for 500, it's going to stay at a certain height. So it's going to switch from the width and height to the max width and height values. Now we're targeting the lines. These were our span elements, the 6 of them. Class was line, so we use .line with a background color, a width and a height. For now we can't see it because of the positioning of the wheel. But now we're going to change the position to absolute, and then it's going to become visible. So here it is. And now we'll reposition that with the left and top properties to the center So we need left 50% and top 50%. And it's now in center of our wheel. For now these are 6 lines on top of one another. And we can use that by using transform, but at first we want to set the transform origin to the top left position of the line. So the center of the circle right here. And now if we transform it, it's going to get transformed with this top left position as, you could say, the anchor point. So this is going to stay in place and the rest of the line will be rotated around it. And here we need the pseudo selector, nth, type of, and then parentheses. So if you can't remember, we've used that in one of the earlier sections. So in the parentheses, you'll just add the number. In this case, we want to target the second of type dot line and then rotate it by 60 degrees. So we are targeting this one while all of the other lines are still layered on top of one another. And again, you can see the transform origin. So this top left point, it stays in place. So we are rotating the line around it. And now we're going to do that for all of the other lines, so 3, 4, 5 and 6. So I copy paste this here 4 times. Let me change the number. And now I'll have to check the values. It's all 60 degrees. So we have 6 lines and a circle has 360 degrees, therefore we'll divide that by 6 and we've got 60 degrees. So if we give every line a rotation of plus 60 degrees, we'll get what we want. Now we can move on. In step 11 we're going to target the cabins. So our 6 div containers right here. We'll first set the basic design via background color, width and height. Again, we'll use position absolute at first. So now it's a square, and we'll give it a border. Let me exaggerate that and you can see it properly. So it gives us a black outline for this cabin. Again, we'll set the anchor point, you could say. So we've done that for the line with a 0, 0, so that it's in the top left. And this time we use 50 and 0. And this is going to put it to the top position. But when it comes to the horizontal value, it's going to be in center. So it's not the top left, instead it's the top center of the cabin, right here. And again, we'll need our pseudo selector here, cabin, nth, type of, and then first. And we need the right and top properties to position it accordingly. So we want each cabin to be placed on one of these lines. And the transform origin, as I've said, it's the top center position. You can see it's now exactly where the line is. We need to do that for the rest as well. So let me copy paste this part. I have to be careful with the values here. Let me go over this. And I believe I've missed one. So I'll copy this one. And now we should be good. And I'll adjust the property values. But for the fourth and fifth, we'll also have to change the property right to left. So not just the values, but also the property itself needs to be changed. But then every line should have one of these cabins correctly positioned. And in step 16, we are now actually going to introduce something new, which is the animation, and we'll use the add keyframes keyword for that. If you've done some video editing before, I'm pretty sure that you've heard the term keyframe. But it's going to become clear what it is when we go over this example. At first we'll need to give it a name. So it's like you would declare a class or variable. In this case we're going to call our first keyframes wheel. We haven't done anything for now, but you can see here's an example for 12% color green. So you can define with 12% at which point you want your animation to do something. So it goes from 0 to 100%, where 0 is the starting position, and 100 would be the end position. And in the example, it's 12%. Let's move on. And at 0%, so at the start position, we want to have the transform property set to rotate 0 degrees. Obviously, that won't start anything here. But we want to add that to our main div. Let me check, I've made a mistake somewhere. Here's the typo, I forgot the S, my mistake, but now it should be good. Now we'll target the end position, so 100%. And at this position we want the transform to rotate 360 degrees. Once again, nothing's going to change yet, because we've just set it up, but we haven't yet added it to any elements via CSS. So don't worry if nothing happens, it should be that way. And here you can see we've got the animation name property to basically connect a class, in this case the class wheel, to our keyframes wheel. So we use animation minus name and give it a value of our keyframes name that we've set up. In this case it's called wheel. Now we're going to set the animation duration. So for how long we want this keyframes to do what we've added, so rotation in this case. And we want to use seconds as a value and set it to 10, so 10s. And now our animation starts. You can see it goes from 0 to 100%, which was 0 degrees to 360, and then it stops. So by default it gives you one iteration. Starting point 0%, 0 degrees, and position 100%, 360 degrees. So it's one full circle rotation. And whenever we restart it or refresh it in a browser window, it's going to do that. And we can set the iterations via a count to a certain value or just make it infinite so that it continues to do that all the time. You can see it rotates one time around, it stops for a brief moment, and then it does it again. This is by default the timing function. Probably want to have it so that it's smoother, you could say. And we can set the timing function to linear to do that. So it doesn't speed up and slow down for every rotation. Instead, it has one speed all the way through, but it's still 10 seconds per rotation. But now you can see it's way smoother. That's what we want. It doesn't stop, it doesn't accelerate. We'll create another now for our cabins. So this was these little boxes, these 6. So we use the keyframes keyword, add the name cabin. When we check, we want to have from 0% to 100% again, but this time it should be from 0 degrees to minus 360 degrees. But the name we should use is cabins, not cabin. I'm going to explain later on why we use minus 360 and not 360 for the cabins. But at first we're going to add this animation to our cabin class right here. And there's an easier way to write all of that. Instead of animation name and so forth, we'll just use the animation property, add the name as the first value, cabins. So this was our new keyframes right here. As the next value, we're going to add 10 seconds, which was the animation duration right here. After it, we'll add linear, which was our timing function. And as the fourth value, we'll use infinite, which was our iteration counter. And now you can see our cabins, they rotate as well. And if I get rid of the minus, they're going to rotate clockwise, just like the wheel. But that's not how they would behave naturally. Instead, they would rotate in the other direction, and this is going to cause the cabins to stay in place as the wheel rotates clockwise. So this is why we're using minus 360. Instead of linear, we could also use ease in and out. We're going to use it for the cabin. And this is going to slow it down and accelerate it at certain points so that it looks a little bit more natural. Let us add more properties to our keyframes right here. For example, we can change the color, add 0 to yellow, and at 100% it would be red again, because this is the default that we've given these cabins via the cabin class. We can set more properties at 50%, for example, change the background color to purple. And now at 0 it's yellow, then it becomes purple at 50, and at 100 it's red again, and then it's going to jump to yellow at 0 again. Right here. So here you can see the cabin class has the background color red. Step 27. We want to make it smoother with the color transition. So at first we'll get rid of this one at 0%. And we're going to add the yellow background to 25%. And now it doesn't jump directly from red to yellow. And it's much smoother. Now we're already at the final step. We're going to add yellow again, this time at 75%. And let's go over this on the wheel. So it's red at 0%. Watch this one right here on the left. Then it becomes yellow at 25. It gets purple at 50. Yellow again at 75. And one rotation is through, it's red again. And this should conclude this Ferris wheel section. It's an easier one, quicker one. Go over it yourself as always, and refer to my walkthrough if you get stuck. I hope this video was helpful, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.